As we've heard in the news, Mana Party leader Hone Harawira was arrested last night while protesting against the removal of Housing New Zealand homes in the Auckland suburb of Glen Innes. There are warnings of a housing crisis in some low-income communities, with as many as 700 state homes to be pulled down or removed because they're either unwanted or earthquake risks. The Housing Minister declined to be interviewed this morning, as did Housing New Zealand, but Hone Harawira joins me now. Good morning to you, Hone.
Morning.
So what exactly happened last night?
Well, first of all, just a quick history. In 2008, the community of Glen Innes was promised on numerous occasions that none of them would have to leave their homes. And since then, where homes have been taken out right up till now is a massive police presence. There's truck trailers, there's tow trucks, there's contractors. It's a massive operation to move one house. What happened last night was that same over-the-top kind of experience. There was these three young women sitting up on top of the house in the middle of a cold night, and I thought to myself, it's bloody awesome, that they would do that to try and protect their community. I thought, the least I can do is just sit in my car and support them.
And what happened then? The police tried to move you along?
Well, they started waving at me, so I just turned up my radio and listened to some music. And then the next thing you know, they popped the back window and hauled me up.
And so what have you been charged with?
It's kind of embarrassing. It's not a serious charge. I don't even know if it's a real charge. It's called failure to remove a vehicle from a road, which I've never heard of before. It's like, failure to turn your head to the right or something silly like that.
So a few hours in the cells last night, but you've now been released.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That's how over the top it was for something as petty as that. Yeah, they went through that massive exercise. Mind you, the guys who got arrested alongside me, they were kind of grateful. They said, we've never been treated so politely as we have been tonight, so thank you very much. Maybe you should come more often.
Why join the protest when, as a Member of Parliament, I guess you have the privilege of being able to bend the ear of the Minister of Housing, to ask questions in the House, to lodge Official Information Act requests?
Yeah.
Why go about it this way?
I've watched the Minister, I've asked him questions, and I watched him, cast aspersions on the poor and make bad jokes about evicting them from their homes. And, and I'm really pissed off by that. I've watched his colleagues laugh at that. I've watched his government, over-the-top kind of invasion of that territory. I've watched people with broken hearts. I've watched young students come from all around Auckland to try and support this. I think to myself, at some point, you've got to say that, that just talk is no longer enough. Sometimes you just have to act, I think.
This development in the Tamaki region has been years in the planning.
Right.
The development company says that there has been a long period of consultation with members of the public. Has that not been sufficient?
There has been long periods of consultation. The fact of the matter is, though, that government agreed with the community and actually made a public statement on a number of occasions. None of you will have to leave your homes if you don't want to leave. And they've all since been pressured to move out. Cut this, cut that, you won't be able to do this, that, the other thing. And so they've been pressured to leave their community. That community, it's got names like Dunkirk and Tobruk. It's named after a lot of the battlefields of the Second World War, and a lot of those Māori families in particular. Soldiers came back and settled there. They've had children, they've had grandchildren, in some cases great-grandchildren. They've married into one another. It's become their home. And now somebody says, you've got to go because we've decided that half of this property is going for private development. And your government says it's for need.
It's private development for low-cost social housing.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. No, it's not. A full half of the housing that they're going to be developing is actually going into the hands of private developers. I can guarantee you, not one of those GI families will be able to afford to move into those homes. And from what I understand, the housing court prices, they're not going to be able to move into those ones either.
Because they are still going to be building new Housing New Zealand houses. Do you not agree that those houses do need to be updated, that they're old, they're run down, they're often on large sections when that's not necessarily required, and when there are people needing state houses, that that there does need to be upgrades?
Look, right now, there's a desperate need for 20,000 new state houses, right? What's the point of taking out other ones instead of fixing those ones and building new ones? You build new state houses, or let's just take Glen Innes. You renovate those communities, you encourage a whole range of glazing, of chippies, of sparkies, of roofers, of drain layers, of plumbers, to do all of that sort of work. You know what I mean? You actually involve people in rebuilding their community, you create work for them. And on top of that, looking after those ones, you also need to build at least 20,000 in the next 2 years. That's what all of the housing experts are saying. To actually take them out of the community, and not one of those people has been given a clear indication that there's a home for them anywhere else, is unacceptable.
Can I just ask you, Hone, your media people contacted us in the middle of the night to let us know that you had been involved with this protest. Was that always the aim, to be involved, to get some publicity onto this issue?
No, actually. In fact, when I went out there, I actually went out with my wife, and we just come from a meeting in Otara, and I had no intention of getting involved. But when I started talking to young people there, and they were telling me about some of the horror stories of how they'd been brutalised by the police the week before, and showing me their injuries. And I looked up on the roof, and there's these 3 young people, and I thought, yes, real commitment. They're not even all Māori, these kids. And it was just, I thought to myself, you know, they're making this commitment in the middle of the night. The least I can do is show some support for it.
So what are you going to do next?
Well, right now, I'm going to jump on a plane, and I'm going to Kaikohe, and I'm going to be having breakfast with Sam Kuha. And the reason I'm having breakfast with Sam is because he's had a letter from the Minister of Social Development that if he comes off his hunger strike, she'll fly to Kaikohe to have breakfast with him. So that's what I'm going to be doing next.
But I mean, what are you going to be doing next in relation to the plight of the people that you were standing with last night in Glen Innes?
I'm not quite sure. I mean, this isn't just a Glen Innes problem, eh? I've seen this happen to my own, in my own electorate in Otangare. I've seen it happen in Tikipunga. I've seen it happen in Kaitaia. I've seen it happen in Hikurangi. I'm hearing of families all of the time. I've heard of Housing Corp has a house, ideally suited to this big family. Housing Corp's going to sell it off. Unacceptable and unnecessary.
Well, look, thank you very much for your time. I imagine you'd like to get home and have a shower. Thank you, Hone Harawira, the leader of the Mana Party.
I had a shower, actually, Nadine.
This morning we brought you news that Mana Party MP Hone Harawira was arrested at a protest against the removal of state houses in the Auckland suburb of Glen Innes overnight. Here is what Hone Harawira told us a few moments ago.
The fact of the matter is, though, that government agreed with the community and actually made a public statement on a number of occasions. None of you will have to leave your homes if you don't want to leave. And they've all since been pressured to move out.
The Minister of Housing has refused to come on the show to react to that claim, but Sean Bignell, who is the General Manager of Asset Development for Housing New Zealand, joins me now on the phone. Good morning to you, Sean. Can I just put to you, first of all, exactly what Hone Harawira was saying there, that these tenants were told they wouldn't have to leave and now are. So what has changed since then?
Good morning. So just to go back a step, the comment that tenants are pressured to move is not correct. Our tenancy people work one-on-one with all of the tenants to find appropriate alternative properties that meet their needs, and redevelopment is a normal part of what we do across the country, so it simply isn't correct to say that they are pressured. Secondly, we also work very hard to relocate people into existing communities, and many of the people who have moved already have been relocated elsewhere in Glen Innes or nearby, and that is a matter of their choice, but it's part of the process that we go through to work with them. Some have chosen to move elsewhere, and actually what we found as soon as we worked with people early on in the process, that many actually wanted to move very quickly for the very reason that we actually are going through and redeveloping, and that's concerns over safety, and actually we're finding it really hard to tenant properties in that area today.
Sean, you make it all sound very peaceful and innocuous, but if that was the case, why are there people sitting on rooftops protesting their houses being moved?
Yes, it is quite emotive, and part of it is actually I guess it's almost ideological. It's people thinking that if we just build more and more state houses, that will somehow solve the problem. But the reality is that people in state houses have many and varied complex needs, and it's actually not just about providing a house. That doesn't help them. Doesn't help them get a job. Doesn't help them change their circumstances. So it's actually really complex. And also, many of the properties in the area were built back in the 50s and 60s, three-bedroom homes, not suiting our families today. And so on the one hand, we get comments about, well, there's overcrowding and the houses don't fit. Well, so guess what? What we're actually trying to do is fix that and to change that. And that's what this program's all about.
But how much is it about redeveloping and upgrading the housing, and how much is it about cost saving? Because you are actually reducing the number of state houses in this area of the city.
Yes, certainly we are reducing them in this, because today we hold over 57% of the total housing stock in the area. And quite frankly, that actually isn't a good balance for the rest of the community. So if you go out and ask the private land owners and property and private renters, what would they like to see? Actually, they would like to see a community that is more balanced, that has a really good range of people, which is how we all grew up. And so are those numbers going to be made up in other state housing developments, or are we simply going to have fewer state houses? No, over the next 5 years, we're actively working, and we've got other developments on the ground today to increase our absolute stock by over 1,400 properties over the next 5 years. Now, that's also about keeping in balance with how Auckland is growing, and as we know, the rate of building growth in Auckland today is quite low. Last week we launched a project to release some land to the market down at Wolfers Road, Papakura. So we've got a range of other minor developments happening around the city. We've got some building work, we've got refurbishment of apartments. It's getting a range and a balance. So just building more and more or keeping old properties in the same location, quite frankly, does not work.
So the land that is being sold to private developers for private development, is that going to be low-cost housing as well? Or, as Hone Harawira alleges, it's going to be beyond the reach of anyone in that region?
So again, it's about getting a balance. So part of what we are doing, Phil, so there's around 156 properties that are dealt with in this first stage. We're actually taking back 78 new purpose-built properties for ourselves, 2 and 4 bedroom homes, so different to the 3-bedroom properties that are old and past their useful life there today. Around 40 properties are actually going to be aimed at the first home buyer or the affordable housing market, and then the rest is a balance of market-based properties, and they will range in price points and value, which is what you see in normal active suburbs.
But so, Sean, given the depth of feeling in this community, the ongoing protests, have you done enough consultation? Should you go back and talk to these people to try and resolve these issues and avoid further arrests and waste of police time?
Well, I think, again, let's pull that apart. When we talk to our tenants are actually very happy. The people who are making the most noise, quite frankly, are the agitators and the activists. And we've had circumstances where, in one of the early protests, one of the protesters got a lift from the local police because she actually didn't know her way out of the suburb. So, are these people really connected to that community? I would challenge that notion, but we actively work, and we have worked right from the conception of this project. We're continuing to do so. We will continue to do so as we work through delivery. But at the end of the day, we actually need to balance a whole range of objectives and other people's views. And we actually also need to provide properties that meet the needs of our tenants. And if we can't let properties, holding them there forever, I don't understand how that is serving the community.
Look, thank you very much for your time. That is Sean Bignell, the General Manager of Asset Development for Housing New Zealand, for coming on the program and responding to Hone Harawira's